Give me a second. Good evening. I think the the uh, voice is also muted. We can't hear anything.
Sorry, I was on mute. Right. So these are what we discussed earlier, right? In our last lesson. Different types of questions, supply type, selection type. Supply type was divided into two as short answers and extended answer variety. Then the selection type, matching variety, two alternatives, MCQs. Then we discussed about advantages. Problems. Yes, advantages, limitations, facts we considered, then supply type questions. There are good characteristics, weak characteristics. We saw some examples. You also prepared some test items there. Then the structured essay type questions. In the supply type, including matching variety, and the facts that you should consider, two alternative variety, then the multiple choice variety. We discussed about 5 types of multiple choice questions. And then we are here. Facts that should be considered in constructing multiple choice questions. Some of the facts we have already discussed. Anyway, let's start with here. The simple words should be used. Right? We have to use simple words so that everybody can understand it. And authentic words, the real words used in the society must be used. Example is there. And then number 3 says unnecessary statements, expressions should not be included to the stem. We have an example here. In certain country, it should be in in a certain country, it is given that the gross national product is 4,530 10 lakhs dollars, and it's almost of the depreciation of 610 lakhs dollars. If you are requested to calculate the net national product of that country under the market price, which of the following methods would you follow? Right. So we know that in order to calculate the gross national product, right? The net national product, right? You don't need this, the first information here. In certain country, it is given the gross national product is like that, right? Because now they are not asking about an answer, the numerical answer, right? So this numerical information is not necessary. They are just asking about a formula, right? So the first sentence included in the stem is unnecessary. That's not necessary. If you include things like that, you will be like spending a lot of paper and spending a lot of time, energy, right? And even the students, when they take part, when they sit the exam, they might be reading unnecessary information. So that kills their time. Right. Next one is unnecessary clues should not be given. It should be clues, C-L-U-E-S. Not be given in the stem and the choices. Example from the ancient times, the Muslims involved for cultivations according to the factors available, were proficient in trade, have attempted to invade Sri Lanka, made an endeavor to distribute their religion. Right. So then Right, sorry, I heard a noise. So they I don't know what the unnecessary information here. Is there any clue? I don't see. Right. Next one, example 2, give the answer which shows the order of using currencies in such countries: Britain, Russia, America, France, and Japan, respectively. Right. So when you say the order of using currencies in such countries, then again this word respectively is not necessary. Right. Okay. Repetition of words is inappropriate. Right? Repetition of words is inappropriate. Don't repeat the same word. Right. For example, if I go up, yes, it's there. Right. Yes, in some cases we repeat the same word in all options, so it's not necessary. You can include those repeated words in the stem once and then write the options without that repeated word. Right. Order should be followed when using digits, years, and percentages. Now, for example, it's usually the ascending order. So if it's like if you are giving digits like you give a calculation and ask at the end how old this man is. So then if you say 45 years, 35 years, 50 years, 48 years, it doesn't follow any order. So you have to put those answers in an order, like 35 years, 40 years, 45 years, 50 years. Right? Or years, if you are mentioning years like, right, in which year did Sri Lanka got the dominion status? In which year did Sri Lanka get the dominion status? So you give years like 1940, 1938, 1948, 1935. There's no particular order. So follow the order. You have to say 1935, 1938, 1942, 1946, like that. In a sequential order. Percentages are also the same, right? What percentage of Sri Lankans are Buddhist? So you can't say like, you can't give answers like 80%, 75%, 85%, 70%, like that. Should be in a particular order, like 70%, 75, 80 or 85. It should go like that. The position of the correct choice should be randomly concluded, right? So don't try to have a pattern. Now, if you have, let's say, 10 questions, 10 multiple choice questions, now you should not include the answer like in the first question, first answer correct. Second question, the second option. Third question, third. Fourth one, fourth. Again, start from the beginning with the fifth. Fifth one, first option. Sixth one, second option. Seventh one, third option, like that. If you go in a pattern, that will be caught by the students easily. Right? So by changing, when you change the options, you have to change them randomly. Like answer for the first question is number 2. Answer for the second question is number 4. Answer for the third question, again number 4. Then the next one, number 1. Again number 3. 3 again, 2. Like that, it shouldn't have any set pattern. And then a problem must be included in the stem. Yes, the stem should have a problem. Now, for example, the chief minister, it's not a problem, right? It's just a position. So what's the question you are asking? That question should be there in the stem. You can't say the chief minister is the leader of the majority party in the provincial council. The chief minister examines the legality of the acts. So then we don't see a question there in the stem. So stem should carry the question. Right. Then let's look at the strengths of the multiple choice tests. It doesn't take a long time to provide answers. Therefore, more questions can be included to a test paper. According to that, a large subject content can be coverage. Yes. So you see now in the A-level question papers, we include about 40 multiple choice questions. And it doesn't take a lot of time to answer. Within an hour, you can answer it, all 40 questions, right? And then because there are 40 questions, you can cover a vast area of the syllabus. 40 questions are there. So 40 different areas. It is easy to score answers. It doesn't take a long time for evaluation. Yes, that's the other one, right? When you are marking the paper, it doesn't take a lot of time, right? After some time, you will remember the answer, so you can quickly mark it. On the other hand, you can get somebody else support. The reliability of the test is so high in evaluation, the subjectivity doesn't affect, because there's only one set answer, one correct answer. So it's highly objective. Because of that, the reliability is high. Answers or marks cannot be changed according to the person who marks it. Right. So for marking, you don't need experts. Somebody who can recognize a number is enough for that. We give the question number and the answer number, then anybody can mark it. Multiple choice questions are the best question type for measuring memory. If taking more care of constructing questions, higher order abilities such as comprehension application can be measured. Right. So I don't know whether the comprehension is a higher order mental ability. Nobody agrees with that. Application can be a higher order mental ability. So you can check some higher order thinking abilities, higher order cognitive abilities like application. Right? But this is best for the lower order things like memory, remembering and understanding. Then we go for weaknesses of multiple choice questions. Inconvenience of evaluating the knowledge on subject matters as an overview. So it's difficult to get an overview of their knowledge on the subject. Although marking answer scripts is easy, but constructing questions is tedious. Yes, now just imagine that you have to prepare a question and at the same time 4 answers, 4 options, out of which only one is correct and the other 3 are wrong. Still, even though they are wrong, they should appear like correct. Right? So this is a hard task and you are supposed to prepare about 40 questions from different areas of the syllabus. It's difficult. It allows guessing answers. The probability of guessing correct answer of an item with 4 choices is 25%. As I told you about the binary choice, there's always a 50% of possibility getting right. Now here it is 25%. If there are 4 choices, still you have a chance of getting 25% correct, even though you don't have any knowledge. And there can be even the items with 5 options. So then there's only 20% of possibility of going correct. It is difficult to construct questions for measuring higher order mental abilities such as synthesizing and evaluation. Students should have to select a given solution, but it is not permitted to make an independent solution or creation. Right. So that's the art of learning. Should have to select a given solution, but is not permitted to make an independent solution or creation. We have given answers. We have given the question. We ourselves have given the answer. So the students have to select one of them, right? They don't have chance for their own answers to be creative and prove that they are correct. So that part is not there in MCQs. The learning habits such as writing skills, composition will be decreased. The writing skills will not practice. Right, so that's another issue. Writing skills, composition will be decreased. So we no longer want our children to write things because we are getting used to typing. You are typing on your mobile phone screen. We can easily do that if you have the proper knowledge, proper skill. So as a result, the writing skill will not be practiced. Right, because we don't want that. All right, so that's all about preparing test items. Now let's discuss about measuring intelligence. Intelligence testing or measuring intelligence. Right, you can keep this document for your additional reading. A lot of information is here in the university document also. But I would like to go to some other presentation I found. So let's look at that one. If there's any additional information, we'll come back to this document. Let me first open these PowerPoint presentations. Right, I hope you can see this PowerPoint presentation. So we have definitions of intelligence. Just read these definitions for you. Just give me a minute. I want to change the setting a little. All right, we are back here. It is an organization comprising the abilities of readiness, correctness, and of understanding complicated and abstract things. Exhibits necessary mental control and action in solving problems. So you can see several basic things here. We have understanding complicated and abstract things. exhibits necessary mental control and action in solving problems. So we have two things. One is abstract things. The other one is solving problems. What are these abstract things? Complicated and abstract things. What do you understand when you hear the word abstract?
Is it like imaginary things like that?
Ah, yes, imaginary things. They are not physical. You can't feel, you can't touch them, see them, right? They don't have a particular shape. You can't say that love is this shape. Kindness is this shape, right?
Emotions are not, emotions
Yes.
cannot, yeah, they don't have shapes,
Yes,
or we can't.
right.
Just we
And you
can
can't
feel
touch
that.
emotions. You can't touch anger, right? You can't see hunger. Right? You can see the results of hunger, but you can't see something called hunger. Right? So these are concepts. They are called abstract things. So ability to understand these abstract things, because understanding physical, see them, you can touch them, you can feel them. If you want to, you can lick them, you can eat them, right? But these concepts, these abstract concepts are not like that. So it's difficult to understand. So if a person can understand abstract things easily, it means that the person has high intelligence. Intelligence is a capacity of excellence individuals in the various areas. Capacity of excellence in individuals in the various areas. According to the term, intelligence is the ability to think. I don't know, right? Intelligence is the ability to give responses that are true, Thorndike says. You must have heard a lot about Thorndike. Here we have three types of intelligences. One is mechanical intelligence. The second one is social intelligence. Third one is abstract or general intelligence. So let's see what these things are. Oh, sorry, it's not given. So let's see the three types. Mechanical intelligence. So the ability to work mechanically, right? Or the technological skills, how you can handle them. Then the social intelligence is your knowledge on your ability on how to live in that particular society you are living in. Social intelligence is that. Working without conflicts, living without conflicts with your neighborhood. And then finally, abstract or general intelligence. Abstract intelligence is also difficult because now a lot of calculations, like if you are capable of doing a lot of calculations, we say that it's abstract intelligence, right? If you can argue verbally by looking at a question and find an answer problem, that's abstract intelligence. If you can design something new, if you can design a new machine, abstract intelligence, because you know how to see the connections between items.
So then what will be the difference between the mechanical intelligence and the abstract intelligence?
Mechanical intelligence is practical. You have to do these things practically. It's like take a machine and you are when it is broken, you can correct it, right? Repair
Then
it.
is it the ability to do things physically, the intelligence related to that one is mechanical intelligence.
Yes, yes. Doing things physically. Right. So abstract intelligence is that you are putting those concepts together, creating something new. So it's designing, right? That's the abstract intelligence. Based on your design, if somebody build something, that is mechanical intelligence, right? You can
The thoughts
design
regarding, the thoughts regarding construction, likewise, they will be abstract intelligence, and that one is put into, I mean, those things when it comes to physically, when we are doing that, it becomes mechanical intelligence.
Yes, exactly, right? So an architect has abstract intelligence, right?
Yes.
The mason has the mechanical intelligence,
Mm.
right? So you can design a new design of frock. That designer is abstract. The tailor is mechanical. Tailor has the mechanical. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Right. Going forward, tests of intelligence. French psychologist Alfred Binet, the father of intelligence test construction movement. So this is what really happened somewhere in 1930s, as I remember. Or is it 815? I don't remember. Right. Alfred Binet was appointed by the French government to see the reasons why the students have low achievements in the schools. Right. They visited many schools, many primary schools in France, right? And first had a repository of activities the primary students can do. By observing hundreds and thousands of students, they made a list of things that they can do. So a student in grade 1 or a student of 6 years old should be able to do these things. So likewise, for the 7-year-old children also, they prepared another thing. They should be able to do these, perform these physical tasks, solve these mental questions at this age, like this. So like that, he prepared a list of activities, what the students of particular ages can do, right? Later, this became a test of intelligence, like this was used as a test to see whether the particular child has reached the level of that intelligence in the grade, let's say it's grade 6, and we have a list of things a 12-year-old child can do, right? So if the child being tested can do them, then we say, okay, that the real intelligence expected in this age is there. If some students fail in doing the things in that list, we say they have low intelligence than their age. So that's the basis of intelligence testing. Then we have different types based on number of individuals to be tested. We can divide intelligence tests into two, as individual tests and group tests. One individual is tested at a time. One individual is tested at a time. Right. So it's like even in a written paper test, that's an individual test, because every candidate gets an individual copy of the paper, and they have to work individually. They can't get support from anywhere else. So that is individual. There are group tests. Groups of individuals are tested at a time. So at the same time, the group is tested. For example, nowadays it's a tradition in recruitment interviews, especially in private sector, right? They want to see the social skills of their employees. So they give a group interview task. You are put into a group and a task is given, and then you are observed. Your work in the group is observed, and based on that, people give you marks. So, group of individuals are tested at a time. Based on the form of tests, like verbal tests, use language or paper and pencil. So, verbal tests can be either written or oral. Can give written questions. At the same time, you can give oral tests. You can ask questions and conduct a test. Then there are non-verbal tests. So non-verbal tests can be things like performance tests. Right? No words are involved. So you have to show your intelligence in action, physical actions. So they are the categories: verbal tests, non-verbal tests, etc. Individual intelligence tests. This test can be administered to only one individual at a time. Types of individual intelligence tests are verbal method. So you can have a kind of interview with the candidate. So then you, based on that interview, the questions you ask and the answers given by them, then you decide whether to be selected or something like that. Right? The verbal method. Then there can be non-verbal methods where we ask them to do certain things. Or in some cases, you may have just symbols in the paper. Right? There's nothing they have to read. There's nothing to read. All symbols and pictures. We give the test through them. And the third time is performance test. That's where we give them a task. Right? You give them an engine which is not working and ask them to repair it in this number of minutes. Or we give another task to be completed within a given time. And within the performance, we can divide roles also. We can give the assign different tasks and see how each person performs those tasks. So there are some types. Right. Let's look at the verbal method. In this method, language ability is essential. Right. So to be tested in the verbal method, you should have good understanding about your language. The individual can answer through the verbal way, such as reasoning, memory, and numerical abilities. Verbal tests cannot be administered to dumb your condition of those who doesn't understand your language. Right. Give me a second, please. Right, sorry for that interruption, right? So in the verbal method, language ability is essential. The individual can answer through to verbal ways such as reasoning, memory, and numerical abilities. Verbal tests cannot be administered to dumb, right? Because they should be able to speak. Condition or those who don't understand your language, right? So because now they should understand the language also. If the language is not understood, they can't give answers, right? So in cases like interviews, they should understand our language, right? For those who don't understand our language, we can follow this non-verbal method. It deals with diagrams and pictures. It is free from language barriers and do not require reading skill, right? Non-verbal tests can be administered, this English is wrong, illiterate and natives, right? So that is good for illiterate people, people who cannot read and write, right? If you remember that film, all that Hogana Pokulu, if you have seen it, you should remember that a driving test was conducted for that driver, right? So he was given an oral test for that without writing because he didn't know how to read and write. So he was given symbols and the meaning of those symbols were questioned. That is one, but still they are the language ability. Listen and understand, and listen and speak should be there. Right? But there are some others that you don't need to read and understand. There can be other just like images, symbols, etc. Right. Then the performance method, again, good for the people who are illiterate. It is one of the non-verbal tests, but it assesses the subject or person. They have to do something rather than solving just a problem, right? Examples, assembling things like pattern of blocks. Blocks are given, they have to then assemble animal pictures like we have these, what do you call, the puzzles for completing a picture of animal, etc. Right? Sorry, there are some disturbance. Give me a minute again. Sorry, there are so many disturbances. So back to the performance. Now here the example is a jigsaw puzzle. Jigsaw puzzles are there where pieces are there. You have to put them into the correct order, making a good piece. Then there are group intelligence tests. In this method, tests can be administered to a group of individuals at the same time. Individual intelligence test was born in France, but group intelligence test in America. Group intelligence test started during First World War for selecting soldiers, large number, right? It is soldiers, SOLDIER, soldiers, right? If you remember, there's a song by Bob Marley called Buffalo Soldier. So that's about these soldiers. These soldiers were reported to the American army from African countries. So for this recruitment, they wanted to test the intelligence of these people. But the major issue, they had lost the language barrier. They could not speak English. And they were illiterate, mostly illiterate, right? And large numbers were recruited. So therefore, they built two intelligence tests called Army Alpha and Army Beta. Army Alpha was a verbal test. So the people who can communicate and who were a little literate could do it. The Army Beta was a performance test. That was for the illiterate people. So one is an individual test, the other was a group test. So the types of intelligence tests, we have verbal and non-verbal. We have discussed a lot about that, right? Intelligence tests based on scientists in a sense. So after Binet's test, some others helped in developing this. So the first one is Wechsler test, right? Wechsler had a series of tests. We have two of them. Like one is Wechsler Adult Intelligence Test Scale. It's called WISE. The other one is Wechsler Intelligence Test Scale for children. For children, actually, Wechsler had a series of tests. First, beginning with small ages, then a test for each 6 months, then a test conducted annually, right? And then finally, 3 tests for the adults. So this is the whole test series called Wechsler's Battery. Then we had the Stafford Binet intelligence test, because the intelligence test started by Alfred Binet, was then later taken to the Stafford University in USA. Then they developed this improved upon the Binet's test, and it's called the Stafford Binet intelligence test. It's about Wechsler's test. This test described by American psychologist Wechsler. From this, we can assess the individual intelligence. It should be assess. Individual's intelligence scale for all age groups, right? So WISE, that is the adult test, can be used for 16 to 75-year-old people, right? So it has just 3 tests. For WISE, that is the children's test, that is age between 5 to 16. So for about 5 to 7 years, there's a test for each 6 month old. After that, it's annual. Wechsler assessed the intelligence through the verbal scale involving use of word concepts and numbers. Consists of 6 subjects. First one, general information. Second one, general comprehension, that is reading and understanding. Arithmetic reasoning, digit span. Distinction between similarity. So you see similar things and you have to find the differences there. Like you are, we see pictures. 2 pictures are given, almost similar, but there are very simple differences, right? So you have to spot the differences there. Earlier we had a cartoon like this in one of our newspapers, which is called the Guru Gola Venasa, right? There was a Guru picture, which is called the teacher's picture. The other one is the Goliath's picture, that is the apprentice or the student's picture. The student's picture had certain things missing. So the task is to find the missing parts, missing things in the student's picture. So finding the differences within similarities. Otherwise, it's almost similar. The 2 pictures look almost similar, but very simple, very small parts are missing. So we have to find them. So that's finding the distinction between similarity. Then the test of vocabulary. Vocabulary tests are there. Then there can be information tests. In this test, general knowledge questions are there. And the individual information status, right? Then we have comprehension tests. They deal with more abstract questions. We have arithmetic tests dealing with the problem solving method, measures of scoring, etc. It's digits span. I'm not happy about this English, right? Similarities and vocabulary tests. So further on. Let me stop this one because it's I'm not happy about that. The English we find there is not up to a good quality. So let me go for something else. Right, I'm going to use another PowerPoint, which is beta in language. Let's look at this similar information you will find. So we can skip them and we can quickly go through that. This is Alfred Binet. And the French psychologist Alfred Binet was commissioned to identify students who needed educational assistance. Right? And based on that, he developed the concept called intelligent quotient. Right? It is intelligence quotient. During the early 1900s, the French government asked Binet to help decide which students were most likely to experience difficulty in school. So that was the task, finding out the learning difficulties, right? So to find out the learning difficulties, he prepared a list of things that the students can do. So the students who couldn't do those things were taken as the students who of special needs, and they were supported. That's the beginning of this. Then the people took his list of abilities as a test, an intelligence test. Right now, look at the second bullet. We quickly realized that some children were able to answer more advanced questions that older children were generally able to answer, and vice versa. So just imagine that the 8-year-old child is able to answer questions meant for 10-year-old children. So then they have like better intelligence than their age. And it was the same to the other side also. The child is 8 years old, but not able to answer the questions meant for 8 years. So they are answering like the 7-year-old, 6-year-old children's paper. So that gives evidence to the fact that their intelligence is lower than the average. Binet suggested the concept of a mental age or a measure of intelligence based on the average abilities of children of a certain age group. So we have chronological age, which is the physical age, the number of years you have lived. At the same time, Binet suggested something called the mental age, right? So mental age means the mental ability of that particular age. Like for example, if you are just 8 years old, right, and the child is able to answer questions given for 10-year-old children, that child's mental age is 10 years. Its chronological age, the physical age is 8, but since the child can answer correctly to the 10-year-old paper, then the mental age is 10 years. And then it is understood that the intelligence is more than the average. The IQ score was calculated by dividing the test taker's mental age by his or her chronological age and then multiplying this number by 100. For example, a child with a mental age of 12 and a chronological age of 10 would have an IQ of 120. So you can see 12 divided by 10 into 100. 12 upon 10 into 100. So the mental age, sorry, the IQ level is 120. Right. I will stop sharing here. And let me give you some questions, right? Let's try to do some calculations related to this, related to IQ. Let's try to calculate some IQ level questions. Let me find some questions. Sorry, I can't find them. So let me, if you forget. it's difficult to find the questions. Instead, I will give you some questions, right? I will read out some questions. Can you write them for you? Then you give me the answer. Write this question. The question one. There's a child whose chronological age is 7 years. A child whose chronological age is 7 years. And the mental age is 9. So calculate the IQ. Calculate IQ. So find the IQ of this child. I have added it to the chat. So you can see the question in the chat. I will add a few more questions to the chat. You can find questions in the chat and then give me your answers. Question number 2, I am adding to the chat. So till I add the next question to the chat, you can do the calculations here. Find the IQ level. So it's like mental age divided by chronological age into 100. Right, I have already got answers. Good. Second question. Right. Okay. Only Samindi is in the meeting. I can see Samindi's answers only. What about the others? Then he has also sent answers. All right, so I'm getting answers. Good. I can see a slight differences in your calculations, but I agree with this side. So the first one is 128 to 127. The second one is clearly 110. Third one is 118. Fourth one is 92.3, 92. And the last one is 80. Right. So what can we say about the average intelligence of these students? Is it good to have something around 92 or 80? What can you say about such students? What type of students are they?
Most students are like moderately, I mean, they have moderate levels of IQ and only
Yeah, if
one.
it's moderate level, what's the percentage of intelligence?
Maybe it's below 100, is it like that?
No, moderate is higher than 100.
Uh,
Yes, 100 is not the average in intelligence, right? If in intelligence, it's a little higher than 100, right? The average intelligence, like we should have the average people may have 105, 110, like, right? What about your intelligence? Where are you? Teachers? What type of intelligence you have? Higher than 100 or lower than 100?
it should be higher than 100.
It should be higher, right? Usually the teachers may have something around 120, 100 to 120, 110 to 120, right? So because they are clever people. So the average is that between 100 to 110. So you are above average. Teachers are above average, right? So if it is like 90s, 80s, 80s is not a very good level that that indicates slow learners. And if it goes
Yes.
even lower than 80, it's not a good situation.
Mental age should not be less than the chronological age.
Yes, that's true. If the mental age is lower than the chronological age, that's a problem, right? Those are
So
the
that is that like does that depends on affect on the maturity or something? We just say that they haven't got any matured levels or they don't have mature, they are not matured enough for their age. Likewise, we say that that's because of this intelligence, IQ. Is that so?
that's one. They are not matured according to their levels, but there are reasons for that, right? It can be the reason can be in the genes themselves, right? From the birth, or the environment is not good enough, right? The
So can
environment
we,
is
for a slow learner, the IQ level is below 80, right? Yeah, below 100. We'll say that it's 90 or 18 between that. Can we increase that
there
for
are
a person?
possibilities. Yes, there can be possibilities, right? If provided the good intelligence improvement programs, like if you can develop skills like critical thinking, numerical abilities, right? Intelligence can be improved, right? But in many ways, we are practicing wrong methods. Like what we do is we give practice to the test. That's what happens in our scholarship
Yes.
examination is also. We are giving practice to the test. So they score well in the test, right? But really the intelligence is not improved there. They can perform
Yeah.
well in the test, but if a new test is given, a different type of test is given, again they fail. Fail in a sense, they score less. So the attempt should be to really develop the intelligence. So we have to make changes to the environment also. At the same time, there are skills that should be developed, like numerical ability, logical thinking. So the exercises are there. Creative thinking. Some of them can be improved. So the lower level intelligent people, like we can't develop them into the level of genius, but some
Yeah.
improvement can
But
be made.
to some extent, we can improve.
Yes, we can do it because there are two things called nature and nurture.
Hmm.
So we may not be able to change the nature, right? But nurture can be changed. So the experience they get, the stimulus they receive from the environment, we can change them. Right? Let's go back to our discussion. We have Army Alpha and Beta test. So at the outset of World War I, US Army officials were faced with the task of screening an enormous number of recruits. In 1917, as chair of the Committee on the Psychological Examination of Recruits, psychologist Robert Yerkes developed two tests known as the Army Alpha and Army Beta. The Army Alpha was designed as a written test, while the Army Beta was made up of pictures for recruits who were unable to read or didn't speak English. The tests were administered to over 2 million soldiers in an effort to help the Army determine which men were well suited to specific positions and leadership roles. Right. So there they wanted to appoint these people as fighters, direct fighters in the field, or the administrators, leadership roles, or the clerical service roles. Like within the army, they had some clerical work. So they were appointed for them. Wechsler's test now, since we discussed a lot about it, I'm not going to discuss now. Look at this one. David Wechsler created the most widely used intelligence test, which consists of 11 subjects. You can see this. So 100 is here is taken as average. That's Wechsler's scale, right? To the left of that, we have the below average, and to the right, we have the above average. We can see that about 60% of the population is within this blue mark. That is between 85% and 150. Right. So 60% of the population, right, ranges between the IQ level of 85 and 150. And then below that, right, it's 34% here. So now to this side, if we say 50%, 34, then 16% of the population is there below 85% of intelligence. This is not good, right? These 16% people need a lot of help from us. So among them also we have about 14% between 70 and 85. And below that we have 2%, 1 point like, right? Below 70, right? It's very difficult with these people, the mentally retarded people. Below 70. And to the other side is also the same. You have another 14% between 115 and 130. Right? So some of you may also be somewhere here, close to this 115 and just beyond 150. Right? And I don't think that any of us go beyond 130. Right? But in some cases, it can be around 140. Some of you may go up to 170. But beyond 130, we should understand there's only 2%, something about 2%, or 2% to 1 point, 2.1%. Right? They are the geniuses in the world. We don't know whether we are. You can see average IQ there is given as 100. Again, the same 85, 70, and 55. Scores that are below 70, presence of developmental or learning disability. Right. So if the IQ is below 70, it's bad. Right. Show some difficulties. And above 130 indicate giftedness. 130. So there can be 1 or 2 students like this in your class. They are gifted. Because of that, they are giving trouble to the others. So the learning ability, that's not necessary for us. Okay. This is not necessary. Let me stop that. Right. So that's about intelligence, right? Let me give you some details about different types of intelligence questions from our university document. Where is it? Let me find that document again. This is how we calculate the IQ, mental age divided by chronological age into 100. That's called intelligence quotient. There's an example. Types of intelligence tests. You can see linguistic intelligence tests using words and digits. Non-linguistic intelligence tests, they use diagrams and symbols. Then individual and group tests. In the preparation of intelligence tests, right, you can have these type of questions. One is identification of similar terms, right? We have the word indolent and some words given, so you have to find the similar words. Then finding about like opposites, analogies, right? Like tears is to sorrow as laughter is to what? So like that, there is an analogy. Underline the extra word in each line. So all these are like verbal intelligence tests. Some list items are given, one is not matching. So you have to select the odd one out. Then arranging in order of size, reasoning, unreal, like example, a man carried an umbrella in one hand, a bag in another hand, and a parcel in another hand, right? So you have to decide whether it is right, wrong, or answer. Then there are secret codes you have to identify. You can see now code is given, then the meaning is given, meet on the river drive, right? So by following this, now you have to find the words here, right? So first follow this, how they have given letters there, and then you have to find the meaning of this one. So if you follow this, you can I understand that N stands for F, F stands for E, U stands for D. So it's just one letter above, right? FFU is MEET. So follow the same. X and F. So X stands for W, the letter before that. F stands for E, that is the letter before that. So it's V, right? You can find the rest of the message. Can somebody quickly find the message here? Just for a change.
Sorry, sir, I didn't get you.
Read this one. Now here it's a secret code, right? And the secret code is translated here, right? So carefully study this one. The secret code stands like this, right? The letter before this one. For example, N stands for N. The letter coming before N. F stands for E. The letter coming before F. U stands for T. Again, the letter that is coming before U. So the first word is neat, right? Then look at this one, P-O. The letter before P is O in the alphabetical order. The letter before O is N, right? It reads like M-N-O-P, right? So before O we have N. The word we have here is on, right? So like that, can you find the message here? The first word, for example, X. What's the letter before X in the alphabet?
W.
W. So W comes here. What's the letter before F?
E.
E.
Right. So I have received the answer. I mean, read it. We won the match. The secret code stands for we won the match. Right. Then the other questions like finding out a series of numbers. So it goes on like different patterns. Completion of sentences. You can see the table shows the way of grouping individuals according to their IQ level. So it's above 130. There are only 2% of people in the society, and they are geniuses. Right? 120, 130 exceptional cases, about 7%. 110 to 120 clever, about 16 people. So many teachers fall here. They are clever, right? 90 to 110 average intelligence, about 50% of the people, right? They are the people who are like involved in average type of tasks in the society, in the world, right? 80 to 90 weak. So still we have about 16% of them. They are the people that usually go for this cleaning work, right? Security guards. You don't need much of intelligence for them. Then 70 to 80 is mentally retarded. About 7% of the people are there. So they need our help. They need a lot of help from us, 70 to 80. And there's a group, about 2% of the people below 70. They are the real idiots, right? So we have to send them to asylum. They need medical treatment. Without medical treatment, they can't. Including mentally retarded also. Mental retarded and idiots. And then we have a nice theory about intelligence. There is the multiple intelligence theory. Right. This was presented by a psychologist called Howard Gardner. So what Howard Gardner said is that intelligence is not one thing. It's not a one whole thing. It's not a complete entity. Intelligence has multiple entities. You can divide the intelligence into several parts. Right? So here you can see that he divided into 8. Then later we added some others also. Right? The multiple intelligence concepts were presented by the psychologists within the last decades, according to the researches done by them. Howard Gardner, the professor of education at Harvard University, suggests this matter by his book, Frames of Mind. According to that, he mentions that 8 different intelligences. You have the linguistic intelligence, logical mathematical intelligence, spatial intelligence, bodily kinesthetic intelligence, musical intelligence, interpersonal intelligence, intrapersonal intelligence. Now, those are the 7 intelligences Howard Gardner suggested, right? So Howard Gardner said only 7 things, right? Later, the other researchers added some others. One example is naturalist intelligence. Naturalist intelligence. There are 1 or 2 others, right? But mostly we use the first and the second types of intellectual abilities from the above types. That is linguistic and logical mathematical. But we should attempt to construct the intelligence tests, including above all categories of intelligence. Right? So not only tests, we should help students develop many of those, at least several of those intelligences, because they are important. Uses of intelligence tests in recruitment to school and vocations. So for selecting purposes, selection purposes, we can use them. To measure the skills in addition to natural learning abilities, like memory power, linguistic ability, reasoning, etc. To utilize in counseling purposes. If the learner has any difficulty, then we have to check the intelligence level and then send for counseling services. So you can go through them. Then we have some weaknesses of these intelligence tests. Unable to say definitely whether the intelligence test measure the innate intelligence or the intelligence measured by the test. Like what happens here in Sri Lanka, we give them practice, right? Practice for the test. The special abilities of intelligence like numerical ability, verbal ability, recall ability, reason ability can be measured through intelligence tests, but it has a less ability to measure common abilities. The inconvenience of utilizing intelligence tests as a tool measuring creative skills or abilities. You can read the rest. All right, so you can go through them. Before we go to the aptitude test, we don't have much time. So let me stop sharing this one and go for another document. Something about multiple intelligence. So let's look at this multiple intelligence theory. It's an interesting topic and it's important also. So let me share that one with you. And here you see Dr. Gardner. Howard Gardner. The theory of multiple intelligence was developed in 1983. Very recent. Howard Gardner, Professor of Education at Harvard University. All right, let's look at it. See, now here you see one more. Verbal linguistic intelligence, which is called word smart. Logical mathematical intelligence, number and reasoning. Visual or spatial intelligence, picture smart. Bodily kinesthetic intelligence, that is body smart. Musical rhythmic, again music smart. Interpersonal, people smart. Intrapersonal means self. Naturalist intelligence, nature smart, and existential intelligence, survival smart. These two were added later, the naturalist intelligence and existence intelligence, right? The other 7 were there. So examples, verbal linguistic intelligence, right? Those who can write well, they have the linguistic intelligence. Logical mathematical intelligence, people like Einstein, accountants, scientific researchers. Then the visual or spatial intelligence, right? Artists, architectures, advertising people. Bodily kinesthetic means like dancers, dramatic acting, like physical education, the sports people, they all have the bodily kinesthetic intelligence. Musical or rhythmic intelligence, you know that. Interpersonal, that means the people who have good social relationships. Counselors, politics, sociologists. Intrapersonal means understanding of the self. How much you know about yourself. So the spiritual counselors, philosophers, they know a lot about the inner self. Natural intelligence, naturalist. So the people who love nature, gardeners, florists, geologists, archaeologists, etc. And finally, we have the existential intelligence. Those who help the existence of people like nurses, counselors. Right. So they are the basic groups. Right. So we have to move about. Look at this, you can see the 8 intelligences are really cool. We all have them, so no one is a fool, right? So we all have them to different levels. Right? Linguistic deals with writing and with words. So we have language. We are not like animals or birds. So everybody has some kind of linguistic intelligence, but at the same time, there are people who have high linguistic intelligence, right? In the logical mathematical, doesn't need to be a shock. If you study real hard, you will be smarter than Spock, right? So we are following a rhyme about, it's a rap, right? Rap song about multiple intelligence theory. Spatial involves seeing, drawing, and art, creating different things and taking them apart, right? Like in the spatial intelligence, for these tests, normally vision is given, like a box is given from one side. Then you are asked to select how it is visible to a person in the other side. And the aerial view of something is given. You are asked to put that into the change into the side view. So if you have developed your spatial intelligence, you can do that. In case you didn't know kinesthetic, that is so get fit and coordinated rhetorically. Naturalists are given. Right, musical, you can read that. Musical intelligence in the class. See what else we can discuss. So it's similar things. We don't have much of the new information. So that's about the multiple intelligence theory. So we discussed about intelligence, Binet, Wechsler tests, then the intelligence quotient, how to calculate the intelligence quotient, and then finally the multiple intelligence theory, right? All right, all this information you can find in your document, the university document also, and I will try to send the others some of the slides to you for more information. Right, then I think we can stop there. Thank you for joining. Then in our next lesson, we'll talk about the other types of tests like aptitude tests, achievement tests, etc.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Good night, all.
Sir.